To get to the question about like how is programmatic making a difference for women's sports, it's enabling buyers to find their audiences. So this is just a new piece of content for buyers to find the audience that they're looking for. It's a live event, so it's highly engaging content. We know that people are watching. It's not background noise. People are watching, particularly when you get into those peak moments. The game is ending, the score is close, there was a call that maybe was disputed, and so everyone's kind of tuning in to be like, okay, what's gonna happen? And you have to watch it in the moment, because watching it after the fact, you kind of lost it. So when we think about women's sports and programmatic, we really think about sports and programmatic with the additional component of there's a little more color here. And maybe there are some brands who are going to find it interesting. One of the things that Jennifer on the panel talked about this morning that I thought was really interesting was the idea of authenticity for the brand, and how consumers, when they watch a female athlete talk about a brand, they believe that that female athlete actually uses that brand, and they're not just shilling for it, that they actually use that particular makeup or that particular moisturizer or drive that particular truck.
What role does ad ops play in making programmatic campaigns more effective for women's sports?
I think I'm going to come back to the idea that it's sports or sports. And so it goes back to live events and being prepared. So for WBD, we are so programmatic forward that for us, it's all about preparation. It's all about anticipating the moment that you don't know is coming. And that means making sure that your technology partners know that this supply is going to be available, know that it is, what kind of supply it is, making sure that your buyers know that the supply is going to be available so that they can think about the demand that they want to push towards it. And then functionally having all of the pieces in place so that once the event is happening, we can let the machines do what the machines do. And in the case of programmatic buying, that is making the supply available in a data-rich way that allows buyers to find the audiences that they're looking for. We talk a lot about matchmaking with the programmatic business, at least at WBD, we talk a lot about matchmaking with the programmatic business, and I think from our perspective what that means is this is valuable supply, it is a live event, it is highly engaging, it's a sport, people are invested. Yes, it's a women's sport, but it's also just a sport. And so enabling buyers to find this content that is really the exact kind of content that they're looking for. It's people actively watching.
So are there any unique challenges to monetizing women's sports programmatically? And how are you addressing them?
I don't actually think there's unique challenges to monetizing women's sports programmatically. I think sometimes there's challenges to monetizing sports programmatically, and that it's the flip side of anticipating the peaks that you don't know are coming. Sometimes there's more peaks than you anticipate, and then you run out of demand. But the best way that we get ahead of that is just to, our sales teams go out there. They make sure that buyers know this supply is available. We think about frequency capping and pacing, and we work with our buyers to ensure that they are getting the most for their dollar and our consumers, our viewers, are getting the best user experience. We don't want to run the same ads over and over again. That's not good for the buyer, it's not good for the consumer. And there's ways that we can work with our advertising partners to ensure that they are prepared for the supply and they're prepared to have demand running across the whole of the event and not just the beginning of it.
So where does data and automation come into play?
Data is key in the sense of we're looking for audiences. That's the matchmaking thing. We're looking for audiences, and sometimes the audience that you think is in a program is not the audience that is actually in the program. It's actually, we joke about this a lot. Like sometimes when I look up like if I go and I look up my profile on like one of the big tech vendors and they describe who I am, they don't get it right, because they're making inferences based off of the data that they're getting off of my search results or my shopping behavior. So enabling enabling WBD's first party data into the transaction where we have knowledge of who the user is. So if the user is signed into HBO Max, we know exactly who they are. And we can leverage that data to help make a more informed match for the buyer, which sounds a little scary, but we do it in a privacy compliant way. And the goal is really to surface advertisers that are relevant and interesting for the consumer, and to surface consumers that are a good match for the advertiser. Because when we do that well, both sides win.
And so what excites you most about the future of programmatic, especially when it comes to driving equity and growth in women's sports?
We've been joking today about our overuse of the word democratized, but I do think it is the right word in this scenario. It democratizes the access. It allows, part of finding the audience, the first time you come in, you find the audience. And then when you get the reporting afterwards and you see where that audience was and you understand that it was on this particular sport that maybe you didn't buy before, but next time, instead of doing it as a scatter programmatic spend where maybe you found a couple of users that you were or were not expecting, now that you know how effective it is, now that you're able to track your KPIs, next time you do a guaranteed commitment. And we've actually seen that happen. We've had advertisers who started with us on events in a programmatic capacity, and we performed so well for them that the next year they came in with a guaranteed commitment, which again, good for us, good for the advertiser, good for the consumer, because it means that the advertiser is finding value in the content, and then the consumer is getting advertising that is relevant to them, and then it's functionally enhancing the experience as opposed to interrupting the experience.